Welcome everybody. Y'all ready for this? The Hustle. My name is Steve Mupese, and these are my co-hosts. I'm Talia. And I'm Tech Luciano. You may have heard me on radio. You may have never heard of me at all, but that's okay.
Y'all gonna learn today. Your whole life was a struggle, had to make it out the jungle. This is a show for you. Welcome to the Hustle. Under pressure, never break a fold. Keep chasing your goals until you blow. Now, welcome to the Hustle.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Hustle Podcast. And today we got my man, Max Mupese, in the building. Did I pronounce it right?
Correct, 100%.
Perfect. My man here just wrote a book.
Yep. Correct.
10 tips on how to get paid gigs.
Yes, exactly.
Did I say? I'm not sure if I had the title correct.
You got it. Yeah, you got it in a way where people could understand.
Perfect.
Yeah, 10-step formula on how to get paid gigs.
Okay,
Yes.
Awesome. Like, I checked your Instagram.
Yes.
I scoured through it like I normally do.
He did his homework, is what he's trying to say.
And this man's been on the scene. He's been on the scene, bro. I saw him with Nate Huss, Kevin Calix, you know what I mean? He has, what's that clothing line? Basics of Hip Hop, I think?
Hip Hop Basics, yes.
Yeah, so you got that clothing line as well.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about everything that you're doing, man.
I appreciate it. First and foremost, for those of you watching this episode right now or listening to it, my name is Max Mupesse out of Montreal, Canada. I basically, in a nutshell, what I could say is I teach emerging artists how to accelerate paid gigs and structure their business, businesses for the most part. And that's important. As an emerging artist, you want to know that you're a business for, once you start your career. So those are the tips and tools that I really teach and, share with my audience or even people who are supporting me.
Dope.
To answer your question, to be specific about what I actually working on, it's this book that I have, 10-step formula on how to get paid gigs. And I've been doing this for quite some time. I'd say like 2015, that's when I officially started organizing hip hop showcase events in the basement of a barbershop. At that time, it was called Beatwave. And, from there, I took things a little bit further. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing you at Make Way all the time, bro.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. He's you've definitely been hustling for a while.
Appreciate it.
I kind of want to just jump right into the book because I like the thing is, obviously the Hustle Podcast, we have a lot of artists that come through the show.
Yes.
There's a lot of Montreal's an art city, let's be honest, right? There's a lot of people trying to get into the game or the industry in some way or facet or another. So let's go through. It's a 10-step process, the book, right?
Yes.
So let's jump right into it. Let's say that you're a fairly talented individual who wants to jump right into music. Maybe you've just recorded your first single. Where would somebody want to, where does an artist start?
Great question. Now, when you're an artist and you haven't done shows whatsoever, one thing I would tell you is that, you got to practice. You got to practice for yourself and practice in front of people who have an ear for music. Sometimes people say, you want to listen. You want to make sure that your peers listen to your music. And it could be good. However, when they don't necessarily have an ear or even understand the aspect of really recording everything, then that's just going to slow the process. So what I would encourage, based on even what I've learned from my teachers and people who have a lot more experience than me in the music business, is that you want to get in front of people who have experience as engineers, people who have that kind of experience. And it's not that difficult to find those individuals, even if you don't have necessarily contact with them. Like you just said, you starting out, well, you could just look at the Instagram of the top engineers in the music game right now in Montreal, because some of the engineers that Nate Husser has, for instance, could work with, upcoming artists or even anybody who's really starting from the bottom. So that's where you could sit down with them, say, hey, I need at least 15 minutes of your time on phone call, how we could come up with a strategy, and, you could listen to my music or whatnot.
I actually love that you said that because I read a quote. So I can't remember who posted it on Facebook. It was today or yesterday. That a lot of artists kind of tend to, and I'm guilty of it. I've definitely done it myself. Tend to make the mistake of literally just making music for their peers. It's like as a rapper, it's like I'm gonna go hard on this track just so I could kind of shit on all the other rappers in the city. And it's like you're kind of missing the point there. I think you know what I mean. It's like because at the end of the day, it's great to have respect amongst your peers, but let's be honest, that those aren't not the people that are going to consume your music, right?
100%.
I definitely love what you said about the engineers as well, because I mean, yeah, it's super important. I mean, an engineer, literally their job is to be able to take something from its rawest form and have that vision of how they can turn it into something that you can be brandable. That's not a word, but that can be sold and that can be consumed. So that's I would say that's a very crucial. That's a key element right there. That's a gem, is what I should say. No more keys. That's a gem right there.
Another point too is like showing it to your peers. Like they could be really biased, right? Like they're just gonna tell you it's good to like make you feel good, but like it could be trash and you don't even know, and they're just like supporting you. So like to go to someone else, that's like a really good like piece of advice to give people starting out. So we need like a public figure like you in the city to like help people and like guide them as to where they need to go and what they need to do and take the proper steps to, get to where they want to be and get paid gigs.
But I also like the fact that, and I will let you talk, don't worry, but I like the fact that he said practice.
Yep.
Because there's so many artists that don't practice. And we just threw the first Hustle showcase, and whether it was Jay Noir and Chris Creed, I mean, these guys came... You could tell that they rehearsed. They rehearsed those sets for many times. And it's such a difference as to like, you can see when somebody's comfortable on stage, comfortable in their element, and they know even if they fumble on a word, that the person they're on stage with is going to catch the word. Like, because they've rehearsed this many times. And it's so important because I feel like a lot, and I'm specifically talking about rappers, they don't rehearse. Yeah, they don't rehearse, and they just show up with their track playing in the background, which I did on Saturday as well, by the way. But I
did the
I had
same
a sinus
thing.
infection. Okay, I had a sinus infection, which is why that happened. But yeah, it's a gem. It's a gem. Rehearse, guys. Just rehearse. Take the time.
Yep.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. And I just got to go back to my early days, because a lot of people don't know I used to rap, so to speak, and I had at least 3 years of rapping.
Max had bars.
I started with, I don't know if you guys remember Black Gloves at the beginning.
Of course.
Higgins.
Shout out to Tegs, man.
I was
Hustle podcast alumni. Yeah.
So you,
I was
Black
one
Rose.
of the, I was one of the members
All
at
right,
that time.
okay.
And, I started out rapping. And what I noticed about myself was that I always wanted the group to do, I always wanted the group to do better than me. And that's when I realized that, I have that A&R type of aura, like that type of mindset that's just going to push people to the next level. And, sometimes it'll take me at least 20 takes to do one verse, and I'm like, man, you know what? You guys do it instead of me. And that's really what.
Is that what you would like classify yourself as, like an A&R?
That too. I could say, yeah.
Yeah.
I have that. I wear that hat.
Yeah, it's like the mastermind behind the grind, you know what I mean? Pushing the stuff, connecting the dots, doing all the legwork. And if you can big up your people and put them in a position to better their career, you're going to do it.
100%. Yeah.
So let's move on to step 2. Now, we've established that as an artist, you've connected with some people with a musical ear. How do you transition from, okay, now we know that the music is good, we know that it's structured, we know that it's sellable. How do you go from that step to actually being able to brand yourself and put yourself out there and achieve results?
I would say invest in yourself by any means. Like, figure out a way to get into groups where people think like you, or even think higher than you, think in a certain mindset that's completely different from what you're thinking at this very moment. So a great example I'd say is just, for instance, if you don't know any music, because there's a lot of communities being built right now on Instagram or even on Facebook, where they teach artists how to really brand themselves, how to network and those type of things. So you want to go to those events where it's local and people encourage each other how to, make sure that they could brand themselves in a certain manner. And any other avenue that really gives you an opportunity to get you in a certain room, that's what you want to do. Like, figure out a way to, even reading books, that could be a great example too. Like, if you figure out a way to start with the minimum, like, hey, a book teaching you how to brand yourself when it comes down to releasing a single or even anything that's related to music, that's what you want to get into.
Absolutely.
Like networking.
That's it.
A lot of networking is super important.
You had a post on your Instagram. Like networking, you never know who you're going to connect with that might change your life.
Facts.
So that's definitely why you got to be out there, shake hands, meet people, you know what I mean? Just to connect on a one-on-one basis. A lot of people stay home, they're on the computer, they're not really making that genuine connection. So I feel when you go out there and you show support, you're like buying a ticket to this guy's show, buying some gear or something, actually listening to the set and building like that, people notice that you're genuine and they want to build with you too.
Real.
So yeah, that's how it has to happen if you're gonna build with artists.
But it could be anywhere. You could network anywhere. So
That's the whole point of networking.
Yeah.
That's why networking is called networking.
don't just do it at shows. Do it at work. Do it when you're playing sports with your friends. Go anywhere. Just talk about yourself. Talk about your music. Let people know what you're doing. You know.
Talia's very good at that. By the way.
Yeah, I love talking about myself.
She's very good at that.
I remember I used to watch her live. She used to wear the uniform and talk about her music. That's inspiring. That's
the hospital uniform.
Oh my god.
Same thing. Who
She
said
had
that
the,
last
she had the
time?
scrubs on.
You Shane said
kudos
it
to
too.
you.
No?
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, everybody's watching those videos.
Yeah.
Never know. That's it.
Yeah, and so many people come up to me. They're like, "Yo, I've seen your TikToks. I've seen your video." And I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, it's true. Anyone could see that."
I'm gonna get off the book for a second.
Okay.
Take us back to the early days, bro.
Yes.
You said you were part of Black Loves.
Yes.
Like, how did you get into music at that point?
Man, it was at that time the inspiration of everything that was going on in 2003, 2002. I think a lot of it had to do with San Andreas.
San
For any
Andreas.
young kid that
One of the
bought-
greatest games of all time, 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know.
any young kid in the inner city of Montreal who bought even if you did not necessarily grow up in the inner city of Montreal, but like had that video game, you felt like, you know, sky was the limit as to what you could really do other than just, you know, playing the video game. So I was paying attention to all of those details, like the soundtrack, the wardrobe. That's when we started wearing Dickies. Yeah, like I think that had a big influence at that time with the people I was hanging out with, and we were hanging out a lot. Tagans always used to write his lyrics, right? So I would say he was one of the first ones that really inspired us to create a group. For the most part, yeah, he definitely had a huge role.
Yeah,
and
shout out to
Elonsky.
He was here on the show too. Elonsky, shout out to Elonsky.
Big up
Like,
to Elon, bro.
yeah.
This guy's a low key. Not even low key. The guy's just a low key genius. Like, shout out to Elon. General Q was in Black Clubs as well, right? Yeah.
That's
Shout
when
out to
I left
General
when
Q,
she,
bro.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. When I left, that's when she got in the group.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember,
Big up to her as well.
I remember General Q days. I remember a certain event actually at where we were at
What'd you do?
campus. Not me. I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay.
But she went on stage, grabbed the mic out of somebody's
She
hand.
snatched the mic, bro. She didn't grab it. She snatched the mic.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was that caused
was a
a
moment.
fucking scene, bro. You know
That was a moment, bro. That was a moment.
So what's going on with the crew now, though? Like everybody's doing their thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. To be honest, at this moment, we could say that everyone has their own entity. Well, they're creating their own entity, and they reach out to each other once in a while. However, it's not necessarily like the group really had the same chemistry. You know?
You know, I mean, it's hard to keep those kind of youthful connections together as we grow older. Everybody, I mean, listen, we grow up, you know, life happens. So it's you know, but I mean, listen, it's great things came out of it. I mean, there's some legendary, the 4 names that we just dropped. I mean, anybody who's into Montreal hip hop, that's some legendary shit, bro.
Right.
And I remember when Black Loves came out, it was a bit of a takeover at that point, for sure, 100%.
No, the music was always good. The name itself was catchy, Black Gloves. You know what I mean? I was pictured some like, yo, we're going to do a hit, bro. Put on the gloves,
Why
fucking
your mind
slide.
always gotta go
slide,
there?
bro.
He has to each time.
So yeah. Besides that, you had the music popping.
Yes.
When did you start basics of hip hop?
That's 2015 was initially Beatwave, what I did with OFC. I don't know if you guys know One Full Circle with Long Life Pharaoh. Shout outs to them.
Okay, all right.
And at that time, I was pretty much well, I could say I was the protege of OFC's founder. Like, I was making sure I was taking really notes, making sure I understand what he was doing as it pertains to music business.
Yeah.
And as months went by, even years went by, I'd say a few years, that's when our visions became different. Like I told myself I wanted to move a certain way, and you know they had a certain way to move. That inspired me to create my own entity, which was Global Sounds Agency, and that's full service entertainment business where, you know, it embodies hip hop, it embodies music, education, galas, and entertainment, all of the above. And that's when I started thinking about different names. I had a sheet. The time I left Beatwave, I had a sheet, and I was like, okay, let me just think of different names that could hit something that's different, that's related to music and hip hop. So I was writing them names, and hip hop basics came to mind right away.
Oh.
Fire.
And once you got that baby off the ground,
Yes.
what was the plan for it? What were you trying to achieve with it?
The plan was to have all elements of hip hop on one platform, like, breakdancing, DJing, rapping, all of that, graffiti. Hopefully graffiti could come in the picture a little bit later. And to create showcase events where all of those, like I said, all of those elements are promoted, but we could see which one shines the most and which one we could headline more than the other. And that's when I started doing these. Well, I did those events every single month, and I was able to book a few artists from the States, such as like Locksmith. I don't know if you guys
Nice.
know. Yeah. Brought him in Montreal in 2019. Yeah.
That's fire, bro.
Yeah.
What other artists did you bring down?
From the city, as it pertains to music, only Locksmith. Comedy, I brought out 2 artists. Well, 2 comedians.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Dope.
Takara Williams, and I don't want to mess up his name, Louis Belt.
And besides local stuff, you've been branching out to the States and stuff like that, like trying to get the brand out there.
Yeah, that's something I'm doing as it relates to a personal brand, and eventually it's gonna expand as it relates to Global Sounds Agency.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to get farther than Montreal. I think a lot of people they only see the world in terms of their city sometimes, and that's you're definitely hindering yourself a lot. I mean, it's the age of the internet, guys. Get out there.
When did you decide to? I want to make a book, help emerging artists and everything. When did that first come into your brain, and when did you first start like putting pen to paper? You know what I mean?
Man, that was COVID. COVID was a huge inspiration.
Yeah. COVID made everybody level up.
Yeah.
Man,
Absolutely.
As much as it hindered a lot of things or even hurt people, I'd say it gave me a new perspective on how to approach the game, right? Because I was only focusing on foot traffic. I was doing these events back to back. You remember like 2018 to like 2000, I would say 2017 to 2019, I was just doing back to back events. Even if it failed, so to speak, or I learned lessons, I was still doing them. Sometimes I'd had comedy shows where I had 7 people in the crowd. I would still do the shows next month again. So I was doing hip hop comedy, music comedy. I had R&B too. And once COVID hit, I was like, okay, you know what? Shoot, I don't have a plan B. I don't have something that's tangible, that I could sell or even give to a community that I'm building. So I have to figure out a way to, share some of the lessons I've learned. And I was studying at Trebas at the time. So I told myself, okay, you know what? Based on the lessons I've learned at Trebas with the teachers I've had, I went to amazing events where people were networking. That was my first time going to a heavy metal event where at least 900 people was there. So I was like, okay, you know what? All of these experiences, paying attention to what my teacher was doing. My teacher, shout out to her, Alessia. She she is an artist and a promoter. So I was really taking notes, like making sure I could learn from everything she's doing. And that experience alone, or even the information I was gaining from that school, taught me that, okay, you know what, I could teach someone based on what I've learned and what I've been through.
Smart choice.
Appreciate it.
You did the ebook, right?
Yes.
You said you're trying to get some physical copies made as well?
Correct. I'm not gonna say I'm mad. I was gonna say I'm mad that I don't have the book, because I was planning on getting the books right before the show or even our interview, and a few things happened. The company's taking a little bit more time, so hopefully before the end of December I could have.
It would have been nice for you right here with the book. You know what I mean?
Right here.
But, I mean, listen, it's still available. So what goes into writing a full-fledged book? Like how much work are we talking?
Focused, a lot of sweat equity, for real. I mean, the time before even writing a book, I had to think about the table of content, right? And I took the table to basically I was really the student at Trebas who wanted to make sure I was at the front of the class and paying attention to every single thing. And like, I'm gonna have to mention her name again, Alessia, man. She's a true inspiration. She was teaching a class on concert promotion, concert production, and a lot of what she taught us, I was able to blend in a certain way, or even concise the information where I could create a table of content out of her class. I'm like, okay, shoot, and not necessarily, take all of the notes and everything. Like really use my own brain and understand it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's when I focused on all of those details. Okay, first chapter, why am I going to talk about mindset? Because that's something that a lot of people, it's a cliche word, mindset, but you have to understand, you have to have a certain mindset when it comes to getting into the showbiz or even performing in front of a crowd, because
100%.
there's going to be a bunch of people watching you and judging you. So you got to have to approach it a certain way. That's when, once I got the table of content out the window, I told myself, okay, you know what? Since sometimes it's hard for me to write, I'm just going to record myself.
Right.
Sometimes I'd go to the library, I had my headphones, and I was recording myself talking out loud. Some people thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. So I was talking to myself high, with a certain tone to sound confident, because sometimes when you talk to yourself, you're like, I'm going to erase that part. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So that's when, I developed the habit of, speaking the book out loud, or even reading it out loud. And after I did the recording part, that's when I wrote down what I spoke out loud.
That's actually a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good method. Very good method. At the end of the day, like if you just have that recorded with you all the time, every time you get an idea, just speak into it. You know what I mean?
It's also a really good way to overcome writer's block, because like sometimes when you're writing and you're just staring at that screen and nothing's happening, and you're just getting more frustrated and more frustrated and more frustrated. Whereas if you're just talking, bro, you just let it out. Yeah, that's actually
it's like what we used to do back in the day, like before we had the recording on the computer, everything. Used to have a recorder, one of those old shitbox recorders.
The tapes inside.
Yeah,
and shit.
tapes.
Yeah, bro.
Press record. Forget about it.
Don't know nothing about that.
Forget about it for hours, bro. Just do whatever you do. Then at the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, that thing was recording. And then you listen back, you'll find a couple of good tidbits.
A couple of gems for sure.
Yeah.
Come on,
why
bro.
not?
If not, you don't belong, and maybe you should rethink what you're doing.
Talk about it.
How many chapters are in the book?
I'd say specific around 13 chapters. Yeah.
13 chapters. It's how many pages in the book?
How many pages?
55.
55. See, that's
So
just
it's
enough.
digestible.
Yeah, digestible.
Because people definitely have a shorter attention span these days. 100%. Yeah, I mean, let's be real.
Look, if you can give me all the tips that I need in 55 pages,
That's perfect.
that's perfect for me. You know what I mean?
But I don't want to skip the mindset thing though. I want to kind of double back to that, because I think it's super important, because a lot of people don't know these things, right? And listen, I'm not going to even sit and act like I do. Let's talk about the mindset. Like, what kind of mindset? Let's go back to the book, bro. We you've got your music brandable. You've got the people with the musical ear who have kind of helped you craft your sound. What kind of mindset would an artist wanting to break into the industry need to have?
After the introduction, I have a chapter called commitment.
Okay.
So I talk about how you want to make a commitment to yourself, an oath, telling yourself, okay, from this day forward, you write it down. Like I really have a sentence that I want you to write down. Like from this day forward, I want you, like I'm pretty much paraphrasing what I say. Like from this day forward, I want you to understand I'm capable of doing these gigs at a certain time, and you want to have a certain date. Because, once you're able to write it down, it's like lyrics. When you write it down and then you start rapping it or you're speaking it out loud, it becomes,
you're reaffirming
making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted people to understand. Once you write a book, even before telling yourself I want to get to a certain level, that mindset has to be, so intact for you to understand that you can make this happen, and you have to see it in that manner, Mm-hmm. And that's really what I want to emphasize when it comes down to mindset. But even in the commitment part of the book, I talk about how whenever, you're going to face adversity whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I even quoted Jim Rohn, which is one of my favorite guys to listen to when it comes to mindset. So just by reading that chapter, you could understand that, yes, you could write that, you could write that oath, or you can make that commitment, but there's also some other people you could listen to or even pay attention to, because I quoted Jim Rohn, and I even quoted another book, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you need that. It's motivation too, and the thing with the mindset and the commitment is also, once you write it down, you're also holding yourself accountable, which I think is major, because it's so easy to just be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this and that by this certain date, and then just fall off. Mm-hmm. You got to hold yourself accountable, bro. That's a major gem as well.
Yeah, when it comes to commitment, a lot of artists nowadays, a lot of artists throughout time, they just don't have that commitment
100%.
to do everything that they're supposed to do. Like I got to go to the studio at this time. I got to go to my gig on time. I got to rehearse. Like you said, a lot of people don't rehearse, and a lot of people just treat it like a hobby. They treat it like a hobby, and at the end of the day, if you're treating it like a hobby, don't expect to get paid. Don't expect to get to the next level.
And not only that, it's just there's this ego involved to where I feel like people kind of, they want to be catered to as though they've already made it. Whereas like, no, but you gotta pay your dues first. Like that's the part that people get confused about. Like you are gonna do some shows where there's gonna be 7 people in the crowd,
100%.
and it's still your responsibility to go out there and put on a show as if there's 7,000 people in the crowd. That's just all part of paying the dues. You don't get to get all the adulation and all the credit and all the clout that you want to have without actually putting in the work. And I think that it's just lost on a lot of people, especially because it's so easy to just hop on TikTok and take a picture of your asshole and get 1,000, a million views, right? Like, but it's true. It's true.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but I think it goes back to that San Andreas mentality too. Because in San Andreas, you can just go into that gym, work out for 5 minutes, and then you're a beef buff guy. You know what I mean? So everybody thinks things happen quick.
Man.
But no, bro, it's the same way in real life. If you go to the gym, you got to go for a year or something before you see some nice results. You know what I mean?
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. Oh, I'm already seeing some nice results.
I have
whatever.
shitty genetics, okay?
But it's the same way as an artist. If you're just going to get onto the scene and drop one track and you'll be like, oh, bitches are all over my dick right now. And I'm popping. All my friends love the music. You know what I mean? You fall into that vicious cycle of everybody saying you're hot, bro. And the actual market isn't even listening to you. The market doesn't even know about you.
But that's the thing. You're hot in your circle of friends, but like, how much revenue have you made off of your music?
Yeah, it's like you're minus $27,000, dude. Like, come on.
Speaking of hot, my stomach right now is killing me. Like,
All right, yeah.
I'm in
So he
so
knows.
much
He
pain.
knows.
Yeah,
He
but we'll
knows.
preface it for the viewers
I'm
because
in
that was
so
another
much
episode.
pain right now.
So Talia ate the world's hottest gummy bear on the episode that we recorded before this. She totally no-sold it, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So that it basically didn't affect her whatsoever.
It's
But
just,
now she feels like
like
she
really painful.
her
like,
stomach. She might have an ulcer.
Yeah.
that we don't
I
know
think so. I'm just gonna go lay down a bit,
Go
guys.
lay
Don't
down.
mind me.
Okay.
I think she's pregnant, guys.
about. It's all Steve's fault, by the way.
Okay, now the boys are talking. I mean, the women have left the building.
I'm glad you cursed because I wanted to
Oh,
ask
you can
if you
swear.
could
Oh,
curse.
bro,
Okay,
come on,
shoot.
man. Listen, I'm talking about assholes. You can do whatever you want.
That's dope.
You can do whatever you want. Just don't say the J word because, we don't want to get canceled like Kanye.
Right.
But you can, other than that, you can pretty much say whatever you want.
No good comments about Hitler, please. That's it.
Yeah, that's we'll just leave that over there. Yeah.
Where were we before she said she's having an ulcer?
We were talking about just kind of paying your
Yeah,
dues.
paying your dues.
Paying your
People like not willing to put in the work, the
Yes.
commitment. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Having that circle of yes men telling you all your shit's hot, this and that.
That's a key word right there.
So that's what really gets on my nerves when you. Some guy that has potential, your stuff's good, but at the end of the day, bro, I know personally that only 20 people have heard your fucking music, and if you're trying to like act all big with me, bro, because 20 people have heard your music and they all think it's fire, you're sadly you're living in a fucking dream world right now. You know what I mean? Because there's billions of people out there that you have to market to, and you're only marketing to your friends.
Yeah, I think a great analogy for it is like Instagram models, right? It's like these girls who are gorgeous, You're gorgeous, like you're gorgeous, but guess what? It's not quite the commodity it used to be because how many of them are on Instagram? It's like there's so many beautiful girls in the world. If the only thing that you bring to the table is you're pretty,
That fades.
sorry.
That's it.
Have you seen? Do you listen to Theo Von?
I not so much anymore, but I definitely love Theo.
He had this one thing he was saying about like if every girl now is on OnlyFans,
Right.
like who's gonna be doing the jobs that like who's gonna be a dental hygienist, who's gonna be this, who's gonna- and it's gonna get to the point that you're
right.
stepping on other girls' toes, bro. Because like how much money can be spread around on OnlyFans? You're gonna have girls on the street running up to you saying, "Buy, subscribe to my pussy, subscribe to my pussy."
It's played out.
So that made me laugh because if you really think about it, bro, like so I know so many girls that had like careers, you know what I mean? Like I'm working as a dental hygienist, I'm working as a this and that, and they've all like stopped working at their jobs and they're like literally making money from OnlyFans.
Yeah, but no, I mean more power to them.
Yeah, more power to you. But at the end of the day, once that Once that coochie dries up, you know what I mean?
It.
And you don't have anything to fall back on.
Or even when they shut down OnlyFans, something happens like Instagram.
Exactly.
Remember that time? Well, we didn't have Instagram for a day. Everybody was panicking, like, "Whoa,
freaking out, literally freaking out." It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But okay, so to bring the conversation back full circle, like the analogy that I'm making is basically, so if you have the really pretty girl whose only asset is that she's really pretty, right? You have the really talented artist whose only asset is that he's really talented.
Right.
What more does he need in order to kind of take that from, okay, yeah, your music's good, bro. We all agree your music is great. How do we take that into, how do we translate you being talented and having potential as an artist into becoming a successful artist and actually making revenue off of music?
I love that question. That, it comes down to grit.
Right.
Hustle, like the name of the show, The Hustle. You got to be out there and hustle. That's really, you got to be out there and hustle. You got to be really savvy. You got to have a savvy hustler spirit. You got to network. You got to commit to the journey and like making sure that every single thing you do, stands behind what you really stands for what you believe. Okay. And man, it's a whole science. That's why I wanted to make sure that the 10-step formula does not equate to simply, doing these shows, practicing. It really comes down to like even a chapter in my book I called Workable Traits, how to have workable traits. Are you that type of individual that, pays attention to details or even approach a certain situation in a manner where, you stand out. I'm going to give you an example. For instance, when I went to Nate Huss's show, I was paying attention to every single opening act. Right, that's something I always do, like how they perform, their approach, how did he speak to the fan, how did he speak to the crowd, and that's something I even talk about in my book. Is that once you've done your performance, do you give out the mic to the promoter or even to the host and leave? Like you give out the mic and then you're gone, you disappear. Nobody knows who you are after the show. So like. Simple things like that. That's why I was paying attention to Nate Huss's performance. After the show, he had an offer. He's like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna be out in the back. If you guys want to take pictures with me, you guys want to do this and that and this, that, and the third, I'm gonna be here. So hang around, just chill out." And I'd say the majority. Shout outs to everyone who performed. They did their thing. However, I paid attention to what they did afterwards. It's like, man, just listen to my music and I'm out. Like I didn't even know what was their Instagram, their name. Really, I didn't even pay them. Which is
let's be honest, is a missed opportunity because you have this chance to be on stage opening for let's not get away from it, the hottest artist in the city right now, right? And you have that opportunity in front of these people. Yes, you've made an impression with your music, but now you have an opportunity to connect with them on a human level.
That's it,
right? And that is almost, if not more important than the music.
That's it,
right? You want people to remember you at the end of it.
Shaking hands and kissing babies.
Right.
Exactly. You got to act like a politician when it comes to that.
You do, though.
For real.
You really do. You really do.
That's real.
Look, you just put on a stellar performance right after you're done. Thank the crowd. Tell them, guys, follow me on Instagram. I'm so-and-so. Follow me on this social media website. Follow me on that. Have a great night.
That's it.
Want to meet me out back for some pictures? I ain't Nate Huss, but you can still take a picture with me.
That's it. And you speak it into existence. Like, oh, I took a picture with this and this person came out of Ottawa. Oh, damn. Okay.
And are we talking about last night's show?
Yeah, I'm just giving examples.
Okay.
So like I'm an artist from Ottawa coming in Montreal for the first time.
Right.
Hey, come hang out with me, like you said.
Yeah,
come take pictures.
This is an opportunity. Even fucking, hey, meet me at the bar. Let's
That's
do some
it.
shots. Whatever. Like, just make an impression. This is your chance.
Yeah, definitely.
This is your chance, bro.
Gotta be real with it. Like, hey, that's who I am. That's it.
Yeah.
And what have been the reviews so far from this book? I saw a lot of people have been reading it,
Good question.
sending you messages and everything.
Yes.
How much it's changed them and helped them.
And a lot of positive reviews. I was able to screenshot those testimonials because I always ask them, you mind if I screenshot the testimonials before I share it? And then for the most part, I'd say like over 8 to 10 people really read the book from start to finish, and they, it changed their perspective on many things, or even how they approach their career. I had this young R&B singer. She's in Atlanta. Shout outs to her. She's doing great. She's actually applying every single detail out of the book. I see it on her Instagram. She goes live. I talk about going live on Instagram because a lot of artists tend to not go live for some, they have their own reasons for the most part.
Yeah.
And I talk about, just share your personal story. Be transparent. What you're doing right now. Are you failing at certain things you want to improve? You want to connect with your audience. And she was able to create her own EP. Well, it helped her create an EP, just by doing the, following the steps of the book. She was able to create an EP
and then like kind of document the entire process for the fans, because that makes them feel involved. And that's like, as a consumer, like what more, like if you really look up to an artist or you find a new artist that you're really digging, and then they provide you with an opportunity to kind of be involved every step of the way, that's amazing.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
I just want to shout her out, by the way, just EYS Music.
EYS Music, Atlanta. Shout her out, man. Big up.
That's dope. No, that you're getting the review. Like you mentioned, 8-10 people. I always have this saying, like, bro, if I can reach one person, you know what I mean? That's enough for me.
That is your cliche of the day, ladies and
The fact
gentlemen.
that you said 8 to 10, like it's the start, bro. The ball is the snowball. It's gonna start snowballing. More people are gonna start reading it. More people are gonna send you testimonials. When I have the time, it's 55 pages. We're both going to read that.
I'm going to send you guys the book for sure.
Send us the link, bro.
No doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Got to get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
bro.
And at the end of the day, it can help me with the shows. It can help you with
whatever the fuck I
you
decide
need
I
help
want
with.
to do.
You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah. No, my problem, my problem artistically, especially in my later years, because I'm just not the cocky, arrogant person I used to be in my 20s. I'm very introverted these days, and that's kind of like, that's my biggest obstacle, I would say, is that I'm just like, I just kind of like to keep to myself, bro, which is like definitely not in line with being an artist. But I've also given up, not given up, but I've kind of just let go of the concept of just like being a famous artist at this point. So I'm just making music for me.
Well, look, I think we've mentioned this plenty of times, but when you get to a certain age, you know what I mean? You're like, dude, is it even attainable anymore?
Yeah.
That's why when you're a young blood and you're on the scene, you just started, I'm 20 something years old, I got all this stamina, virility in me. Definitely, I'm going to start popping, you know what I mean? I'm going to make as much effort as I can to get this career off the ground. I'm going to put so much time and effort into writing these lyrics and everything.
Yeah, like my time and effort is into my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
And
what I
then you
mean?
get to a
Like,
certain point, bro.
I want them to be successful,
Now it's more quality over quantity, put it that way, bro. Whatever you do right, you take your time with it, you make it the way exactly you want it, and you release it when you want it, no stress.
Yeah, well, that's it. Exactly. Exactly. But
True.
Forget about me. So let's talk. Let's talk about the up and coming artists who can benefit truly from the book that you've put out.
Yes.
So we've talked about the commitment. We've talked about the mentality. My question is, because it's formulas to get paid gigs. Right. So let's get right to that. Like, what is the process kind of for somebody coming up who maybe they don't even feel like their music is enough of a commodity for people to even pay for? Like, how would you approach going from performing for free, performing for exposure, right? I will take away the quotes because that's really what it is at the very beginning, right? Whether it's open mics or opening for artists or whatever. How do you take that and transition that into being able to get paid for performing?
Great question. Community, you want to make sure that you perform enough for you to start a community, right? So a great way to do it, and that's free game right there. If you guys don't want to read the book, that's on you. I'm still going to give out the game. So you want to perform, like, let's say there's showcases happening across the city of Montreal. You tap into every single showcase, and you reach out to all of those promoters. You're able to create an ecosystem of promoters. You have their contact, okay? Right. So then those shows, you're doing it for free. You're doing it for free for let's say a year or 2 years, 3 years, and you're at a point where you're like, oh, you know what? I'm able to do at least a show where all of those showcases, I was able to bring at least 10 to 15 people. And that's what's important to have, to collect data, to know who went to your show. If you're not able to write emails, reach out to someone who knows how to write emails properly, efficiently. So, they could send those emails to the people who are going to show up to your shows. Or even if you're not necessarily into email marketing is very important. So if you're not necessarily into email marketing, bring a sheet of paper. That's what Teguins used to always do. He'd bring a sheet of paper and have every single person who show up to the show write their name and email or phone number. You could text them. There's a way there's also apps that help you to create communities out of texting, right? So once you have you're able to build a community, and let's say you have at least a minimum of 25 people who show up to your shows every single time.
Yeah.
Well, that's 25, guaranteed tickets that you
Right,
bring up
okay.
to a promoter. Hey, look, listen, I have 25 people who showed up to my 5 or 7 last shows, and I can guarantee you those numbers are real. You show it, whether it's on picture or whatever, as long as you show it to the promoter. Hey, okay, perfect. Let's make a deal. I demand, I demand, just give me a 700. Let's do it. Boom. Because I can guarantee you that you're going to make X amount of money, and I'm going to make that kind of, you don't have to really watch my pockets, but I'm going to make my money. So
100%.
And that's how you could start, really.
You need leverage, basically.
Exactly.
Got you.
That's
Definitely. You need the leverage.
Thanks, Steve.
it. Leverage.
The pen's hitting me, bro. Well, we've been dropping some good game over here.
100%.
We're going back from the book to back in the day and
Hey,
everything.
bro, I know how to conduct an interview,
So
okay?
we're doing good here. We're doing good.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, we're doing good. Keep going, bro.
Keep going. So now I'm on the spot. Now I'm leading the conversation. No, because I mean, listen, I think that we've kind of tackled a lot of the important factors. And obviously, I don't want you to give the entire book away in the interview because that kind of defeats the purpose of reading the book.
Yeah.
So we got to leave some of the gems in the book, and I believe that there are some gems in the book. But I'm just going to kind of leave this open ended. Is there anything that we haven't gotten to that you feel is important to bring up in terms of the whole process that we're talking about, kind of from starting from scratch to getting paid for your work?
Man, I'd say, because even before you said you know what you're doing, I was thinking about the time I used to really hustle to get to every single interview, right? And that's just a part of my story I wanted to share. Like when you were working at a K103.
K103, yeah, you got it, bro.
That day, I remember I took the bus to get there.
That's a hard that's a hard place to find without a car, bro. Trust me.
I wasn't driving. I didn't have that kind of money, or even I wasn't really getting money really. And I told myself I got to make that commitment. So that's just something I want, artists to understand, like how far you're really ready to go to, brand yourself or promote your music or even do something that stands out. And that same day, I remember I did the interview. I took a picture with him and Blaster. Shout outs to you guys. And that was like an honor for me. Like, okay, I'm at K103. It's my first time being there. And a lot of people were used to listen to that radio station with Don Smooth. Man,
We got to get on a show, by the way. But that was the Bible of the Montreal hip hop scene at one point. Absolutely.
That's it. So that's just a part of my story I wanted to share on how like every single radio station from the time I started from 2016 to 2019, I would make sure I'd take the bus and the walk, BMW bus, Metro walk. And there's an interview I did all the way in like Montreal East. I remember I took 3 buses to get there. It was snowing. It was really cold. I told myself I'm going to come back and, get those pictures, network with the people. And that same weekend, I networked with a group who was from New Jersey, and I helped them get on radio stations. That's something I always do too. Like I help artists get on radio stations and, podcast interviews as well.
No.
Yeah.
What do you have lined up for the future? You just wrote this book.
Yeah.
Is there another book you have in the works?
It's going to get addictive. I know that. It's like tattoos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that I know that after this book, I got this book signing event coming up next month. So I gotta make sure I get those physical copies. I'm gonna invite you guys too.
Definitely.
And from there, I know there's more projects that are gonna come out, but guarantee you that it's gonna be different. Yeah, it's gonna be different from what I started with.
You just need another moment. Something's gonna happen. You're like, yo, it's time for book 2.
That's it.
Maybe COVID 20 is gonna happen, and you're gonna have to write another book.
Because it was also a way for me to give. Because there's a certain stigma to when you hear a promoter, like a promoter does this, that, okay, promoter's all about the money, they're janky. And I told myself, okay, I got to build a certain reputation, and I got to do it in a way where, I care about it, not only to prove something to the people, but I got to prove myself. I got to prove myself 100%. Wrong. That's number one. I always look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, how am I doing it? How am I doing this better for me? And then how am I going to do it for the people? And for me to write that book, it was a way to let artists know that there's promoters out there that are ready to look out for artists. They're ready to work with artists and build relationships. And, I was once an artist, so I understand certain things that need to take place for us to, make things happen. in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need somebody like that. You know what I mean? A lot of people, like you said, are janky. They have that ulterior motive. They just want to make that buck off you. At the end of the day, if you've been there, done that, and you can help somebody,
that opens up a conversation too of somebody else I'd like to get on the podcast eventually, Ricky D.
Man, shout out to him.
You know, the most famous maybe promoter in Montreal, and he's caught a lot of flack over the years from people who are, you know, oh well, why should I have to sell tickets? And because people don't understand from the promoter's aspect, it is a business. He put money into these events. It's not just okay, well, everything's free. Like this goes back to being an artist and back to, I think it was maybe step 2 or step 3 that we talked about earlier in the podcast, which is that you need to invest in yourself. Like you got to be prepared to invest in yourself. That's number one. So I mean, you know, if a promoter gives you an opportunity, right, to open up for whatever famous artist is coming down to the city, but the catch is you got to sell some tickets, that shouldn't be a problem. And if it is a problem, then you need to maybe reassess where you're at the end of the day, right? It's not the promoter's fault that you couldn't sell 10 tickets.
if you can bring 25 people to your show, you should be able to get people to come to that show. You know what I mean?
And if you can't bring 20 people to a show, then again, you need to go back to the table and reassess some things and be honest with yourself and not let that rapper ego get in the way. You know what I mean? Of where I'm a celebrity and I expect to be catered to, because you're not a celebrity yet, bro. We're all in Montreal still. You know what I mean?
Real.
Am I wrong?
Real talk, bro. Real talk.
I said it without yelling. I'm doing good. I'm doing good, I think.
You're doing amazing.
You know, with
today.
your chest out. Like,
Doing
hey,
amazing. Even Talia is clapping from her deathbed over there.
Thank you, Tals. Shout out to Tals.
Okay, so we're getting to that time of the day that we gotta hand you this gem over here.
Okay.
You gotta drop a gem for us, bro. You've been dropping gems all show.
Yeah, he has.
But now you gotta drop the ultimate gem.
The ultimate.
Something that the artist can take with them on their journey through this life. I'm getting poetic over here. Huh?
And I got to hold it, right?
Yes, you do.
I love it. All right. I'd say, man, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That's really it. It comes down to that. That's what we're talking about. Workable traits. So when you go to a show, are you able to tell the people in the crowd, like, okay, reach out to me after, well, talk to me after the show, because we're gonna talk about my music, we're gonna talk about my personal life, whatever you guys want to talk about. You know, those little things, the little details. If your backpack is messy, chances are, your lyrics are not going to be on point. So you want to make sure everything is organized in a certain manner. Even it comes down to your daily goals. Like, are you able to accomplish at least 3 daily goals? Whether it's, okay, I wrote down 4 bars today. I wrote down 8 bars. You don't have to, you don't have to overdo things. You don't have to put too much pressure to yourself, put too much pressure on yourself. But you have to understand that there's a way to do it, and there's a method. It comes down to a science. Like, there's a science to do it. And, for you to do it in a way where you keep things simple and you understand that whatever you're doing, whether it's like a 4 bar, 8 bar, like I said, that's going to get you to a certain point. But, at the end of the day, you did it with a purpose, and that's what it comes down to.
That's
the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
I love that.
Definitely. It's the same way, like, if you're going to show up to work on time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go and do your other things on time too. You can show up to the show on time. You can show up to the studio on time. You can show up to the interview on time. If you're afraid that your boss is going to fire you and you're getting paid 9 to 5, you know what I mean? And you're able to go there on time, you're able to do everything else on time.
100%. It's just consistency at the end.
Consistency is key. Thank you for dropping that gem.
Appreciate it.
Tell the people where they can find you, where they can find the book, all that good stuff.
Yes, Max Mupesse on Instagram. You could reach out to me on Facebook, Max Mupesse as well. The website is under construction. And, making sure, you could reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook for now. And I'll be able to reach out to you. I'll be able to answer the DMs. I have some links on my bio as well. For instance, if you want to book a phone call, I also do at least 15-minute clarity calls where I really assess, or I understand what the artist wants to build as a vision. And I could give them tips and tools. Or you could do, a one-on-one coaching call. That's always something that's important. And, I'm out here ready to make a difference. That's
awesome.
it.
He's outside, ladies and gentlemen.
Outside. Thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of the Hustle Podcast. We out. Talia says bye from her deathbed.
Everybody all ready for this? The Hustle. My name is Steve Mupese, and these are my co-hosts. I'm Talia. And I'm Tech Luciano. You may have heard me on radio. You may have
in to the Hustle Podcast, powered by King